if I'm just wasting my life, living in the shadows of my yesterdays. I know where I belong, and I've got to try to get it together. Now another day has gone, leaving me down. Not one refrain or visible change in my ways. So tired of listening to schemes and dreams, drowning in the times. All that's discovered was never uncovered by the binding of the mind. The past was never, this is forever. The world has just begun. Try to make it better.
Man and machine, a new lifestyle, something to worry about as man runs on the thin edge of losing his soul to the gearbox of the axle. Something primitive and terrifying is happening. In the steel and concrete jungle of the big city, a tribal group survives. The one percenters. These are the motorcycle freaks. Charge out of spooking the citizens in a straight neighborhood. They live in a different world, in a strange cop-out world of their own making. With a kick pedal and the boot, they work off their frustrations on the man in the street. When things get uptight, the open road stretches out like a tempting woman. Feed in the gas, baby, and you're free. But as tough as they look, not one of these cats can cut it with society. And they like it like that. If you can pull your own freight, you're still in the running. It's a hell of a note when you've had your wings clipped, but there's always a friend around. Okay, don't feel so bad. A lot of guys are getting busted. You want to cop out, baby? Just join the brotherhood. Feel sorry for yourself. Been wiped out? Been shot down in flames? Well, come on, climb on board. We'll zap the whole lousy world, brother. You never really know what's out there. What's out there waiting for you. But you reach out for it like a madman, and you try to take the whole universe in your arms. And sometimes you can do it. For these loners, the open road is where it's at. Got a roaring hot fire between your legs, and it's like riding a sizzling comet across the land. They speed along 2 coffin lengths behind each other. They've got lots of nerve, lots of pizzazz. They're an arrogant, ingrown, close-knit brotherhood like the mafia. They're the product of a sick society. To hell with tomorrow. Their bag is today. Their bag is right now. This minute, what's happening? The miles fall behind like the morning mist. And tomorrow may never come.
That's right. This coming Sunday, we're going to have a run at Garrison Beach. We're going to party our ass off all day long. I invited Sirocco, and he's going to get another band to play for us, and we're going to stay overnight. I got the permit, too, from the police department, so we can't get busted. Bam Bam, I want you to get an ounce of speed and 200 trips.
I'm good for that.
How about...
I think they're Friday night.
How do you think we can hang out tough? We can get some hash from grass, too.
200 trips, I'll hang out real loose.
Yeah, I can do that. You can bring some of that Turkish hamstring.
Just an ounce of speed, though?
We may get stoned to bring... I mean, what do you think? We want to get 2 ounces?
2 ounces.
How about a couple of pounds?
On my whole bike out in the sand. You know?
3 ounces.
Be all over.
Yeah, Bam Bam's doing good, ain't he? Huh?
Seen a judge.
Fucking airplanes trying to land. Judges in the dude. Nah, right at the motherfucker, man.
All right, we gotta get down to serious business now, you know. So, like, let's have the cunt split.
All right.
And we'll wrap around. There you go. I always run things in a hole, right? Not for nothing.
Give her a size 11.
You don't have to go that far, would it? It'll pile all the fucking garbage over here, man.
11 to 9. Take that ball off.
You gotta get that bag.
On my way out.
Hey, hold them on.
Show your stars. That was fucking heavy, Potweed.
I just showed him he didn't know enough to do it himself.
This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius, a mysterious age that all the gurus are talking about. Our age, man, yours and mine. It may begin here in the weird half-light of a nation and a people in limbo, torn by strife, a world shocked by sudden change and sudden death. Here in the deep shadows, it is time for a new and a brighter age. A time for youth, vitality, and vision. And most of all, a time for change. Washington, D.C., the march against death begins while the city is still dark. It's early in November along the Potomac. November 14th, the weather is bitter cold. The mercury has dropped to 35 degrees. You won't find the 1%ers out here warming up their bikes. The revolution and the revolutionary stuff is a bad group. Too many pigs around, too many guys wearing hard hats and shiny badges. The decline and fall of a capitalist empire is not going to shake them up one bit. They've got their own thing to do, so what the hell? Those Americans who did come to Washington number more than 500,000. They lit candles for the dead, for the soldiers who have died in Vietnam, for over 40,000 young men who won't be coming home to their families. A giant peace rally, the largest of its kind ever staged in Washington. Those who came, well, they thought they could do some good. There are better than 40,000 of them right here, braving the cold along unfamiliar streets because the time has come to protest a meaningless war. A war that has cut across the fabric of American life like a bayonet. Like lost souls, the candles drift in the somber darkness. And it's hard to imagine 40,000 or 41,000 tombstones. It's hard to imagine that many families grieving. It's hard to think about death on a personal basis when it means a young man who is just getting started in life. Well, those lost souls have names. Each of the marchers wears a placard around his or her neck, each inscribed with the name of a dead American.
From the top of Mount Reality.
Across town, police rush reinforcements to DuPont Circle. Paddy wagons, patrol cars, security vehicles. The radicals want to march on the South Vietnamese embassy. And some of them aren't kidding about burning it to the ground. Security forces try hard to cool off the hotheads. The opposing forces were there too, the SDS, the crazies, the weathermen, the mad dogs, the yippies. Sirens and lights cut through the darkness, and it's hard to tell friend from foe. The peace marchers missed the big hassle, but it wasn't their bag anyway. It was strictly for the flying bottle crowd. It's a tense situation between the pigs and the people in the streets. Tear gas explodes in the surging crowd. It's a bad scene. 26 persons were jugged, 30 more injured.
The press is doing a poor job of this from what I've heard on the radio so far, because they're not saying that the new mobilization committee is having nothing to do with this, because they're not. This is only the SDS and movements like that, YFA, who are out to just disturb the whole situation. I mean, like New Mob hasn't sanctioned anything that's going on today. They have nothing going until tomorrow, except for this has absolutely nothing to do with the new mobilization committee. What's going on now?
They had to do today was the march against death, which has been going on peacefully.
This has nothing to do with them, and it's really destroying the whole thing. And the people should know about this, that it's just a small handful of students or people who are making the trouble, that it's not the majority. As Nixon says, you know...
what Nixon wanted to happen.
Yeah.
Exactly, because now he's going to say, look at this peace movement, it's a bunch of crazy SDS anarchists. Just because he created a situation by making it so tense and so nervous about the whole thing about the cops being around and where the permits were going to be and what people could do, that he's created exactly what he wants. Now he's going to tell the nations, look, this peace movement is terrible, I am wonderful, support me, and we can all rest in peace. Excuse me, because my nose is bothering me.
I feel that the people who want this war to end are the majority. Like, Nixon doesn't have his silent majority anymore. Like, it wasn't that way. And if it weren't for the actions of today, this evening rather, it would have showed him very clearly tomorrow when we have, I think, more people at the monument than there were at Woodstock. I mean, it's going to show him, or would have shown him, that he was completely wrong in his estimates.
40,000 candles are burning in Washington tonight. Every state in the Union is represented in the long procession. No tear gas grenades burst among the marchers. There are no fixed bayonets pointed at them. The march continues without interruption throughout the night, led by the 23-year-old widow of a Navy lieutenant. She carries the name of her dead husband, carefully lettered on a white card. A solemn reminder to each and every one of us that wars are intolerable and stupid. These groovy cats could care less about what happens in Washington. It's really not their bag.
Like, getting into the aliens, you know, going back and remembering when I first became an alien. Like, I was always a biker, but, like, you know, never really had a tight group and everything. And, like, a few years ago, it was a couple of years, I was introduced, like, to the aliens, you know, the Jersey chapter and everything, and I hung out, you know, as a prospect like everybody else. And, you know, really dug the scene. It really got to me, you know. It gets in your blood, you know. It was like, we're a group that's so tight, you know. We have such brotherhood, you know. And, like dynamite people, and, you know, we always had good times and parties and everything. So, like, you know, when I got my colors, like I've said, I've had them 2 years, man. Like, I live for them, boy. Like, you know, like, wow. Like, being an alien, like, is, you know, you get that, well, being a biker, being a 1%er, you know, and, like, you get that bad image, you know, that you have and everything, you know, and, that's what society says anyway, but it's really a dynamite image. Like, society wishes they could be like us, but, like, we're our own society, like, you know, we have such tightness, like brotherhood, you know, and dynamite people, good parties, you know, and, like, society doesn't understand this, you know, like, being 1%ers, you know, like, 1%ers, like, you know, it's an outlaw, you know, and, like, they look at us like, you know, we're the lowest things on earth and everything. Well, let them look at it like that, man. Like, I don't bother them because they wear a suit and tie every day and go to work every day. I mean, if they want to get stuck in that rut, man, that's their bag. But I'm really happy, you know, with my bros, you know, especially, man. You know, I live, like, every day, man. I look up, like, what I can do for my bros, you know, my brothers. You know, like, they're first on the list, babe. You know, then I got my bike, man. I really love my bike. That's all I live for, you know. Like, there's a saying, like, you know, like, society people out there in the other world, they, like, believe in God, but, like, I think, like, Jesus died so we could ride. And I really look at that way. Like, you know, I really dig riding and everything, and partying is, like, fantastic. You know, like, these, you know, my brothers, man, I can always depend on them, and they can always depend on me, you know. We're so close and everything. I don't have to be, like, worried every day and stuff like that, you know, although we get busted and everything, you know, but, like, we're always together. You know, my bros are always there, my scooter's there, my old lady's there. Like, it's such a dynamite scene. Like, you know, a lot of people in the outside world wish they could be like us, but, like, they just ain't got the heart, man. And, like, you know, they look down on us and shit like that. But, like, I don't know, they ought to try it, maybe some of them, man. I'd really dig the scene. But, like, you know, people, like brother, like, you know, like the chicks, you know, in the club and everything, you know. They're dynamite chicks, too, you know. But don't forget, they're just a chick, man. That's all they are, you know. But, like my old lady, I love her and everything. I have a lot of respect for her, just like she has respect for me and respect for all my brothers. And, like, you know, it's a really happy family. Like, you know, they're like, you know, all my sisters, like, you know. And they're like really dynamite, you know. They do all the cooking, all the washing, you know, and, you know, all the boiling and everything in bed, you know. And like, you know, each guy's got his own old lady, you know, and, you know, they're all respected and everything. And like, you know, it's like we're really a closely knit family. You know, like, it's another thing a lot of people don't understand, you know, how close we are, you know.
Okay, so it's a great life. The real danger is that maybe a lot more people are going to get the idea that the big cop-out is the only answer. If the bigots in our government continue to bug everybody to frustrate the people who do want peace, then we're all headed for trouble. What happens when half the population splits? Who's going to mind the store, and who's going to fight the war? Down will come the symbols of our protests, our dreams and illusions, and up will go the symbols of a new and strange rebellion.
Like the 1%er patch here, I wear that over my heart, you know, like, you know, with my college clothes, like, you know, that's just what I am, you know, I have to be like a 1%er, like, you know, an outlaw, like, I live, you know, for my bros and I live for my bike, you know, and I don't care what the outside world does or anything, as long as, like, you know, our family, you know, the aliens, us, my bros, you know, are happy and everything, and that's, like, what we live for, like a 1%er, you know. My JNNF patch, you know, I'm like the only one who wears that. That's Judge Nude forever, because, like, I really, I'm into the nude scene, man. I really dig it. Like, and I ride, like, put quite a few miles on riding nude, you know, especially on the warm summer nights, boy. You know, you get a good trip, you know, where you really get stoned and get on a scooter, man. Like riding in the nude on a nice summer night or during the day, man. Nice hot day, man. Is really dynamite. Something that more people should get into.
The philosophy sounds freaky, but out of it may come the seeds of a better world yet to be born. The easy rider, the nonconformist, may be the new lifestyle.
Oh, 13 patches. 13 stands for the 13th letter in the alphabet, which is M, which stands for, you know, marijuana. My DFFL patch is like the dope forever loaded, you know, or dirty fucking freeloader, however you want to look at it. And, like that, you know. People see that, you know, like they see like dope forever loaded, you know, they think, we're a bunch of junkies and everything like that. It's just, you know, but like, we forbid the needle. We don't want to see anybody use a spike. It's a big bylaw, you know. Nobody better get caught using the spike. Nobody uses the spike, you know, and if you are caught, you know, even with, like, works on you or near you or anything like that, man, like, you're put right out, your colors are taken, like, and, you know, all of us, my bros now, like, man, I know none of them, you know, touch that. Let's see what other patch we got here. Oh, the FTW is, like, stands for fuck the world, you know, like.
Everywhere these cats go, they draw a crowd. It's a lot more than idle curiosity. Many of the kids from straight families are attracted to this wild scene with the choppers and the broads and the pot. They check it out from a safe distance because it does take a lot of moxie to be a big wheel on this turf.
Well, my 69 patch, I guess that explains itself.
Actually, what you're doing is watching royalty at play. This jam session at the beach is really a status thing. Don't let it snap your mind. You've got to groove with the bike crowd and know where it's really at.
For the swastika, we, you know, wear that, and many of us, I have it tattooed on my arm, too. Like, it's a mind blower. The citizens see that, you know. It blows their mind because of, you know, what it represented in the past. Like, they really get uptight over that, you know. I like to see them get their head all jammed up and shit, you know.
thing about these fellas, they're not trying to set any new styles in the fashion world. What they wear is what you'd usually find in someone's grab bag.
Well, I'll tell you, the Nassau people, man, there was nothing like them. Paulie West, man, and Gaga, them people were out of sight. They started the Aliens, man, and there was nothing like them beautiful people. Nobody got busted, man. Everybody was smart. Today, people do things backwards, man. It's a bad groove, man. It's a bad groove. Can't understand it. I think the police are right along with us lately, man. They're pushing the issue a little too strong, man. But they've been pretty lenient.
Vulgarity is definitely in, but don't knock it. It's part of the snobbishness that goes with being a member of this elite organization. And it would be ungentlemanly as hell to corrupt such a good image with soap and water. Up until now, everything's been pretty cool. Not much action. Then a little hassle develops with a couple of citizens. Nothing the club can't handle, just good, clean fun. And with the help of their bros, it provides a suitable climax for a nice day's outing at the beach. A little community action is sometimes the best answer to a bothersome problem. Sometimes you can settle an argument with a piece of chain. You can't leave a job half done, so you might as well work over his buddy, too. You can get real expert at this sort of thing if you have a little practice. If you know what you're doing, you can tear up a guy without drawing blood. You have to protect the good name of the Brotherhood, so everybody gets in a few licks. And for a moment, they don't know whether to take another cut at it or let it go. No sense in making a big production out of a little misunderstanding. And like the noble gladiator, this big honcho with the chain strikes a heroic figure. He may smash a windshield or a store window, and it may be a low blow. But the chicks really don't seem to care. The fuzz moves in to break up the party. Nobody got busted this time, and what about that? Why, those pigs must be getting soft. You know, it's a revolution, Mother. The largest peace march in history continues in the early dawn after a frigid night of rain and hail. The crowd is swelled by the arrival of a mass of protesters entering Washington from all directions. Many faces reflect the serious nature of the demonstration. You won't find any cop-out artists in this crowd. They've learned to relate with what's happening in today's fast-changing, fast-paced world. They have to work out the future for themselves, and there's damn little time. It's too late for them to pass the buck. There's been too much of that already in this country. It's either a world full of problems or a life full of promise. And what happens in Washington today can make a great deal of difference. Perhaps the march will make only a slight ripple in the establishment, but it will accomplish something far more important. It will bring together, finally, a lot of people who are working toward the same goal. Some radical, some conservative. But the time has arrived to unify. And that is what's happening.
I do believe that we shall overcome someday. We shall end the war.
When President Nixon gets on one of his anti-youth kicks, he puts out a lot of bad vibrations. A few heads get cracked. Occasionally, some poor soul gets his ass shot off. It's a filthy war. As everybody knows, only you're not supposed to complain about it above a whisper. Be careful when you do your own thing, because Big Brother is always watching. The Justice Department went underground with all available sleuths in hopes of turning up a lot of phony baloney that would compromise a few of the more militant leaders. It wound up, as it usually does, with the bloodhounds baying at the moon. pine coffins have been nailed shut, all 12 of them. And now they are lifted and they are carried. They are heavy because each one is filled with the names of the American Vietnam War dead. Upwards of 40,000 placards carried by the sympathizers in the 40-hour-long march against death lie stacked inside the coffins. What began in the pre-dawn darkness at Arlington National Cemetery will soon end within sight of the White House. The coffins will be placed, one by one, on the lawn of the Ellipse. Dr. Benjamin Spock marches with the procession. The tide of humanity surges forward through the city. In spite of a desperate campaign by President Nixon to create the impression that the march would generate mass hysteria, that violence would occur, and in spite of Spiro Agnew and his vitriolic comments, the march was orderly and well organized. The Justice Department called out some 9,000 Army and Marine troops as a precautionary measure. It wasn't necessary. It was not a rebellion after all. It was a peace march. Who came? A real cross-section of America came. Workers, students, housewives, black and white, labor contingents from New York and thousands from the Midwest industrial heartland, auto workers from Detroit, steel workers from Pittsburgh, coal miners from West Virginia. Symbolically, a black student carries a heavy cross down Pennsylvania Avenue. In Vietnam, the Negro soldier is pulling all the tough jobs, while at home he can't make the scene outside the ghetto. You won't find many Black Panthers in this parade. As eager as they are to shake the dirt of Vietnam off their feet, they don't groove with Whitey. And where the war is concerned, Whitey can shovel his own crap. The Black Panther has his own thing going. It's just a simple matter of priority. He's got a thing about poverty, a thing about discrimination, a thing about education. He's got his own war going right here in the United States.
Mountain where we find all the peace and love we need.
Those red flags belong to the weathermen. They come out swinging every chance they get because they want to force the peace movement into the vortex of confrontation. Everybody else is trying to cool it.
We gotta show them we're sick and tired of fighting their filthy wars. We don't anymore. When we look down from the top of Mount Reality.
You're out of your tree if you think this isn't a popular movement in America. This business of shutting down the war by whatever means possible. The ranks are swelled every day by more and more people who hunger for an end of the war, who want the GIs back home where they belong. It's not just the young people anymore who are making their sentiments felt in high places, but the over 40 group, too. The silent majority has finally found its voice. our tax dollars go to buy bullets and napalm for the meat grinder in Vietnam, official Washington sits around picking its teeth as our people march down Pennsylvania Avenue. A lot of people today feel they can afford complacency. Little do they know how fast time is really running out. It's only 6 months short of the killings at Kent State University and Jackson State College. Even now at the White House, while the marchers shout their slogans, new policies are being shaped that will precipitate a sudden thrust by the United States into Cambodia. As the parade passed a USO building, a battle-hardened soldier stepped outside to watch. He shook his head, watching the young people pass by, and said, "This isn't going to do any good. We'll just have to fight somewhere else." And he was right. Cambodia is that somewhere else, and that's just what happened.
You need it more than I do.
Most of the demonstrators got very little sleep. The sun came out bright, but the temperature remained in the 30s. People kept moving just to keep warm. They wanted to parade past the White House, but barricades went up overnight to block all access to the executive mansion. Empty transit buses were parked bumper to bumper to form a wall of steel and glass along the approaches which led off the parade route. Behind the buses, federal troops crouched down, waiting, rifles and machine guns ready to fire. Overhead, the crowd is kept under constant surveillance by helicopters.
This highest mountain, will we find all the peace and love we need? Or will we find there just ain't no love and understanding?
As the marchers turned left off Pennsylvania Avenue, some turned toward the White House briefly, held up their hands in the V Peace sign and shouted, "When? Peace now, peace now. Power to the people, power to the people." Maybe it was a hopeless gesture, but it was an honest one, and every word was etched with emotion. The Peace March may seem like a helpless protest, but it is the one way to call attention to the oppressive situation where those who are shipped out to fight the wars have no voice in their own government. In fact, don't even rate the recognition this country gives some backward nation of apple polishers who shaft us at every opportunity.
We gotta show these people that we're sick of war! They don't hear us! They're not listening! We gotta show we're sick and tired of fighting their filthy wars!
There isn't much respect for authority in this crowd. They have very little respect for any of the authorities in Washington. The way they look at it, everyone in the administration is a card-carrying member of the establishment. A bunch of rat finks who ought to have their credentials pulled. A lot of veterans turned out for the parades. Many of them come from hospitals in the Washington area. Some are missing arms or legs, others are in wheelchairs, but they came because they didn't want to be left out. They didn't march, but their sentiments were there with the marchers. The parade itself, a mixture of all levels of our society, from squalling babies to bearded old men. They all come together in a common cause to turn on the establishment. The spirit of Martin Luther King also marches in the parade. The peace lovers move in his shadow. He knew how to cool it and still make his point. Some of the marchers break into a clock dance as they reach the Washington Monument. It is now an hour and 10 minutes since the parade began. Slowly, the demonstrators collect near the monument, waiting for the giant rally to begin. The atmosphere is like it is before the start of a college football game. With the administration trying to spoon-feed propaganda to the youth of today, the possibility of meaningful dialogue becomes more remote. The nation runs a great risk because many of those who protest today are going to withdraw into themselves. Many of us are going to give up trying. We're going to retreat from the world. We're going to do what the motorcycle guys do. Quit the scene, cop out of society, leave what's left for the squares. If the president thinks he has problems now, consider what might happen if our young people start walking out on Uncle Sam. Without young people to build a future, the government may as well close up shop. As the rally begins, Dick Gregory has a few choice words.
You've also proved that you are strong enough to do away with the military-industrial complex. Now, Agnew's been talking crazy lately.
He is crazy.
Because if Agnew is as dumb as he comes off, he wouldn't be able to chew gum and walk at the same time. I mean, Agnew is so dumb, I wouldn't be surprised if he hijacked a train and said, "Take me to Cuba." I wouldn't be surprised if he get on worldwide television and call Nixon a honky. I just look at Agnew as Washington, D.C.'s answer to Rosemary's Baby. Because I kind of get the feeling when I look at Agnew that he would make a crank call to the Russians on the hotline.
When will they
Now the day is done. The crowds have gone and the marchers have marched away with their banners and slogans and frustrated feelings. A certain bleak loneliness settles over Washington. The air is no longer charged with emotion. Trucks come to haul away what is left of dreams, passions spent and tossed aside. The leaves continue to fall from the trees like the dead who fall scattered on the plains of Vietnam. But important things have happened here. The nation has once more learned something about freedom, and the soldiers of many wars past are stirring in their graves.
All right. Yesterday, the chief of police is down here from 9th Precinct, and he was bitching about the noise being so loud. Now he says that, now he told me that because of the noise being so loud, now they posted a TPF cop on the corner. You notice that every time we ride around the corner, they bust your ass.
Yeah, but we don't make all that fucking noise. The fucking Puerto Ricans are hanging out, tough, carrying on, too.
I know, Munch, but that's not the, that's not the idea. The whole idea is that they're busting our balls, and they'll do anything to bust our balls. You know the man.
Because they don't like us.
But this, but this is getting ridiculous. It's getting every fucking week something else happens with us. So,
we just gotta, play it as cool as we can and, keep the scooters, a little quiet until we get out of the area. Because let's face it, this is known all over, this address, where we hang out and everything, and
Yeah, well, you know what he's doing now? He's putting, pressure on the landlord. Like, we just got kicked out of one apartment, and we're getting evicted out of the second one, and here comes the third right now. And this is our last place to live. Yeah, I talked to the American Civil Liberties Union. I wonder if they're going to try to back us up. But, but that still is not the point. The point is, they're busting our balls. And, the landlord, the only landlord that's helping us out is a lady, the landlord super in this building right here for the shop. Now we got the fire department on our ass. The fire department just kicked us out. So, the super is the one that is all for us. But, we're not doing nothing. And even the people on the block like us. And the only one that doesn't like us is the cops.
What more do they want us to do? So far, everything they've asked us, to lighten up on the street racing and everything. We've tried to calm it down a little bit, but they're still coming up.
They don't want us to breathe, that's what it comes down to, they just, I can see your point, bro,
They said when they hauled us all in that they were going to make sure we were all off the streets by summer. Summer's coming and they're going to try to do it.
Urban renewal. Nice, fine, good.
What's happening, Pappy?
Not much, man, I just come over here to find out what happened with the bus and everything, I heard about everybody was busting except the ones that was in the house. Myself and a couple other people, and we want to get together and help out if we can,
Oh, man, you can't believe what's going on. Yeah, we got them out. The bail was $50,000, first bail. Then Stanley, dropped it and they got out. We just got them on, what is it, Groove? 10,000?
$5 grand, Chief.
$5 grand, $5,000. Some changes with it, bro. Believe me, Rap something about it.
Well, when they first charged us, right? Well, they busted us in the courtroom after they let everybody else go on them bogus drug and gun charges, right? They only told us we were charged with one charge.
Then they got us down to where they take your mug shots, right? And Scotty found out we were charged with 3 charges, right? Attempted murder, rape, and arson. Okay, 3 charges. You know, we were hot because, you know, they didn't tell us nothing about what's going on. They wouldn't let us call a lawyer or anything like that. Then the first time they get us into court, right, after we sit in jail a few days, they get us into court and we're charged with 7 charges, right? Okay, and then we go back, we're charged with 10, and now we went up to Supreme Court, and the grand jury indictment came down, and now we find out we're being charged with 20 charges, all right? And, you know, they still haven't told us when or where or how or who or anything like that. You know, we don't know a thing about the case, right? But they keep throwing more charges on us. They keep postponing the thing.
And they want to pull bond, too.
Yeah, every time a lawyer called a hearing, right? Call a hearing and they postpone it, keep postponing it to keep us in jail and shit.
Pat, but that ain't the only one we're bitching about. The other night we got popped, you know? Flash's old lady, you know, she's 7 months pregnant, and my old lady walking down the street, right? 2 guys come out, they grabbed her, they started beating her because she told them to get fucked, right? Rosie comes down, she's 7 months pregnant, she grabs us, tells us, we run down there, the guy pulls a knife, right? Takes a poke at me, cuts me 3 times in the hand, I got 3 stitches, right? I hit the guy, I got his knife away, so we started fighting, all right? He gets all cut up and everything, the cops bust me, right? I was arrested, there was no knife or nothing, but it was, I got arrested for it. I went to court, I had to pay $500, I'm on a bond now, right? The other guy gets cut loose, and then when my old lady and Rosie's old, Flash's old lady was over there, you know, trying to press the charges, they wouldn't even let him press charges, man.
Like, you know, if the lawyer was there, they have to let him press the charges.
I didn't even have a right to make a phone call. When Groove and Scotty got busted, they didn't have a right to make a phone call either. And the lawyer, you know, we didn't even get a chance to call our own lawyer.
The lawyer wasn't there?
No.
The other guy was the school teacher. No, right away.
Yeah, then he was dismissed. You know, then the cop is on my side, tells me about everything, and says, all right. And then I said, well, you know, like, I just came back from the service. We ain't, you know, a bunch of bullshitters, right? And there's all kinds of us, right? You were in it too, Paps, you know? So, like, we come back from Vietnam or something, right? And we can't even wear our hair long or grow our beard after we get over there and do our thing. We come down here and they treat us like shit, man.
See, they don't care anything about being in the service.
Pap, you know, like, nobody's copping a fucking plea.
Yeah, well, that's a big thing. First of all, you can't cop a plea, man. I don't know.
Yeah, but that ain't it. We're not. You know? I don't care how people feel about us or think about us. You know what I mean? As long as we got each other and the love and the tightness between us. You know what I mean? We don't need nobody else.
That's right where it's at. You know.
We can survive.
We know that.
Because all that's dependence between us. My love for you and your love for me holds us together. And it always will.
That's it.
Yeah, but society can't see that. You know that.
Yeah, but society can't stop it. They'll never tear us apart either.
Yeah,
that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, but they're fighting the losing cause, bro.
That only proves that we're tighter because we still hang out. That's why when they fuck with us like this, and they lock us up and they bust us and they keep doing it, they're trying to drain us of all the bread we got. You know what I mean? They take everything away from us. So what we gotta do, we gotta bring our love closer together and get even tighter than what we are now. So they can never break us up.
And that's how come the kids are backing us up too, man.
Got picked up about a month ago in Secaucus, you know, there was 6 of us. Myself, Pappy, Ginzo, and the 3 chicks. And like, pulled into a gas station, get gas, shut the engine over the truck, and the battery went down. And like, Pappy and Gins went up the road, like, to get a jump start, you know, first. And like, the man comes slipping on us, and like, he hit myself and the 3 chicks with loitering. Plus $1,000 bail there. I hit Pappy and Ginzo with like malicious mischief or some goddamn thing.
Remember when they let you go, they kept me in there for 2 days? They said they'd call my parents and they wouldn't come and pick me up. And I had identification on me. And they said, we didn't need your identification. And finally they just said, well, you get out. You know, we know that you're over 18. Remember that? And I had identification on me to begin with. Yeah. And they said they didn't see anything. And then I found out my parents were never home. They never called my parents. They just wanted to keep me in there. You tried to get me out, and they wouldn't let me out. And when they had, you know, when it was over for them, and they figured, well, we'll let her go now. We annoyed them enough. We'll see what they do about this.
So I picked my old lady. And she's a dynamite chick. I mean, she will want with me in anything I do. She understands this, and from the first part, I explained to her, I said, my brothers come first, if anything, if there ever was a choice to be made. And, well, like the poem I had, like that I said before. It wasn't with this old lady, but it was with another one, which I thought was a righteous chick. I mean, she fed me the line, like plastic people, like them other people, man. And it came down to a choice, but she gave me a choice. Me or, you know, the club. And like, I took the club, man. I said, we're getting the win. You know, you don't love me, man. You're gonna give me a choice. You know, you're gonna be, don't ask me to be something, because I'm gonna be a fake, man. I go to work every day. I can't, you know, wow, man, it's a fake. That's not me. So if you don't really have me, then you don't really love me, man. You know, you have a fake. You're doing somebody else. I mean, this chick, you know, right? She does it anyway, man. She goes right along with me, and I mean, you know, goofs up once in a while, maybe. But you know, if she didn't, I'd just think something's wrong with her, you know. But as far as this is her life too, man. I mean, I mean, that's why I dig her. It's her life. My life is her life. In other words, you know, just as long as she told me, she says, I don't care what you do, like I'll cop mamas in front of her and stuff, you know. That's like show class in front of her, you know, shit. Like I got 11 sort of Red Wings and stuff like that, you know. Did most of them in front of her. She don't care. She told me just like this, as a matter of fact. I don't care what you do with any other chicks, just don't patch it. You know? That's about the only harsh words, threat that she ever gave to me. And it really was so beautiful, man. It wasn't a threat. You know, I dug it, man. She really upset.
They're like just a chick, you know. They're there to you know, do all the chores and shit, you know. But not only that, you know, it's like I said, you know, each one of our bros, you know, shows respect to his own old lady, just like, you know, the old ladies respect us, you know.
We gotta clear some of this fucking shit off here.
What are you doing?
You want to put that somewhere? Put this person like
Oh, can I drink that? Not everybody. Hey, let's have a Western oil party right now, okay?
Why somebody bring something over the stove as if they're gonna put something on it? Anything.
You want any fun? Hey, you gotta get a little more. I'll give him.
Like, this place where I'm at now, in New York City, like on 3rd Street, the Nomads, is just what I always wanted, man. Like that poem I have in the clubhouse, the ladder, man. I climbed up each rung, you know, and now I'm at the top of the ladder, man. I'm an alien, you know.
Everybody lives together, you know, eats together, you know.
Well, there's two kinds of women. There's mamas and old ladies. The old ladies, mostly property or individual bros. They could be wives or whatever. And mamas are more or less free, run-of-the-mill, you know. They bed up with anyone they please. And the only reason we really have these two kinds of chicks is so that we can leave citizen chicks alone, because every time we say hello to them, we end up in trouble. So the least relationships that we can possibly have with citizens, the better we feel.
Hey, Food, tell them about that picture.
Bob, I'm gonna crawl above you so I can get some.
Sex is no big thing with the 1%ers. It's a way to work off frustrations or pass the time of day or keep the brotherhood from straying. Like a Western oil party. Or maybe the guys like whipped cream better. It's just good, clean fun. You can do your thing with one of the mamas and it's a good groove. Everybody turns on. No middle-class hang-ups. It's time to split hairs over right or wrong. It's groovy and it's free, baby. No cruddy commercialism here like in the establishment. No blue noses or John Law or two-faced finks to blow the whistle. Like the Constitution says, it's all right and it is free, free, free. Anybody can knock off a piece whenever he feels like it. It's a groove. A real good groove. In the privacy of their homeless world, the cycle guys are way out. They live in a crazy, copped-out world. It's not likely many responsible citizens are going to come from their ranks. Their bag is communal living. Like the man said, it's a revolution, mother. Theirs. Stretched out below are acres of palmetto scrub, a waterlogged area in the south. This is the site of an international rock festival. The embattled promoters found themselves pushed out into the boondocks, and the kids had to rough it like they did at Woodstock. Better than 50,000 kids turned out to hear 30 top bands beat it out. The weather was lousy with rain and chilly winds, but the kids made the best of it. At one time, the field below was paved with sopping blankets. Mud was everywhere, gooey, sticky, fit for alligators only. At night, the temperatures dropped to a chilling 35 degrees. One visitor said, "We got our grass and our chicks to keep us warm." Someone reminded him that marijuana wouldn't keep you very warm. "Yeah," said the visitor, "but it makes it so good, you dig the cold." 144 acres of mud. This was once the happy hunting ground of the Indian tribes. Later, the bootleggers hid their copper stills in the pine woods hereabouts. But the kids slapped around and didn't complain. The 72-hour musical marathon is what they came for. The attraction was like a magnet that pulled them in from New York, Los Angeles, places you've never heard of before. Friday was the first day of the festival, and it rained all day. The kids felt cheated, but they hung in there like tigers. They stood in the rain, sat in the rain, lay in the rain, kneeled in the rain. A few of them prayed in the rain for the rain to stop. Well, they got their wish because it was bright through Saturday and Sunday. It was enough to turn you back to God. Togetherness, that's the order of the day at the festival. It was a time for sharing. A lot of kids who arrived had a bad case of the shorts. Short on money, short on food, short on tobacco, short on almost everything. But they were all there together, and they shared what they had with each other. One girl was impressed out of her mind with what she found at the festival. She said it's the most fantastic opportunity for sharing I've ever run into. She was really flipped out, but what she said was absolutely true. The establishment wants to know, what's the big thing with this generation? There aren't but a handful of liberated minds who can really answer that question, but the trouble is there are a lot of freaks who step forward and answer the crowd, and everybody believes them, and their drivel gets printed in headlines like it really amounted to something. One little guy who was handing out hot dogs had an answer that was probably as good as any. He said, the credo of this generation is for everyone to do his own thing. Do your own thing. That's what everybody wants. They want to be left alone to work out the future for themselves. They want to groove to the music. They want to groove on each other. They want to groove on the world. That's what it's all about. That's the big thing with this generation. The promoter had a difficult time organizing a three-day festival. He fought tirelessly against a bevy of officials and a squad of do-gooders who tried to wreck his plans with a lot of official rules and regulations. The memory of Woodstock was still strong, and the sanctimonious fought tooth and nail against the rock festival with unreasonable arguments and harmful publicity. It was the same old story, the same old hassle. Faces were different, but the prejudice was still the same. Two National Guard units were outside, hovering a mile or two from the festival. The promoters pleaded with authorities not to harass the thousands of persons expected at the festival, and it was a stroke of good fortune that none of the hard hats got through the gates. They may have destroyed the mood of free assembly and caused a riot, a condition which seems to follow the National Guard around like the plague. People came to the festival to dig the music and revel in the sense of togetherness which is so overwhelming at these affairs. They came for a lot of reasons, but mostly they came because they're looking for some meaning in life. They're searching, and in the music, there seems to be some message, something good, something to remember. As usual, the fuzz got into the act. They had 50 bearded guys dressed like hippies quietly sprinkled through the crowd to head off trouble and put down the sale of narcotics. Outside the festival grounds, mass jail facilities were constructed at the site of an old county fair. The cops had been reading too much about sex orgies, drug-taking, pot-smoking, obscenities on stage, and general debauchery. The hippies turned out to be peaceable, gentle people, all 50,000 of them. Better than 50,000 rednecks drinking beer in one place at one time. It was a real shock to the fuzz. They didn't know who to put the arm on. Every festival has its avenue of commerce, and this one was no exception. A lot of tents and trailers and shanties provided what the crowd needed, and a lot they didn't need. You could get food, leather goods, love beads, incense, cigarettes, stop the war buttons or bumper strips, or even religion. You could get pot, speed, pep pills, or LSD if you were a careful shopper and so inclined. After you paid the $20 admission fee, you might be flat out. But once you got through the gate, the rest was duck soup. Everybody was in a giving mood. It's like nobody was happy unless everybody was happy. You know, every so often you pick up a newspaper and read an editorial that says the music of the younger generation incites people to riot and burn and shoot up the town. Well, that's the sort of stuff the guys in the gray flannel suits like to read. Makes good copy and sells newspapers. It also creates a bad image by using a gross falsehood. It hits below the belt. If anything, the music does more to promote peace and contentment. It's the one element of hope in these dark times. It may be our salvation. Morning came and the rain was gone. The sun put crinkles in the mud and more than a few wet shirts fluttered in the breeze. It was dry out time, man. Maybe there was time for a hot cup of coffee to keep spirits hanging in there. Maybe someone turned on with pot or acid, but the festival was the thing that really switched you on with a bang. Those musicians could really lay it on you and you got the message real good.
There are many here among us who have taken time to pray for a ship of understanding to sail into this troubled day.
Sanitation was a real problem like it is at every festival. But here, everything came out pretty well, no hang-ups. Provision was made through the installation of 300 fabricated plywood toilets. You could wash up at 4 long troughs, each with 25 cold water spigots, and there were that many drinking fountains, too. It was not like any other festival where you had to go out behind a tree to do your business. Billy Graham showed up to spread a little of the gospel. A lot of evangelists seize on the festival as an opportunity to convert a mass of sinners to the good life, but they got a cool reception. One holy roller brought 50,000 New Testaments with him to give away to the crowd. He even had them printed with psychedelic covers. But he went home with his books. The crowd came for the music. For most people in this country today, life has become unreal. Life has become a Madison Avenue daydream. People don't get down to basics anymore. They move like robots from one daydream to another. Meanwhile, their spiritual underpinnings are being chewed away piece by piece. It reminds one of Rome before it came crashing down. Human values are crushed under the weight of greed and deception. No wonder young people are doing their own thing. No wonder they turn on, tune in, and drop out. Rock performers are colorful, way out, and really something to see. They've hacked out a new style based on individualism. They don't give a hang for convention. Nonconformity is their bag. Their way of life has a lot of impact on the audience and a lot of appeal. It may be a put-on, but it reflects an undercurrent of change that cuts across the belly of society. The vibrations are great, and it isn't just the music. This is one scene everybody digs. People turning on to music and joining the crowd with peace in their hearts and grooving on love. It's all wrapped up in one big, beautiful pink package, and if you could put a stamp on it and mail it to Washington to your favorite senator, you might get in a few good licks for the human race. You can stick flowers in rifle barrels, but music and love have a way of getting right straight through to the heart of the matter. The sound was great. Giant loudspeakers elevated 50 feet above the ground. The air vibrated like a Chinese gong. The pulsating sound of electric guitars, of organs and drums almost knocked you off your feet, got under your skin, hit you right in the guts. It made you want to dance and cry and laugh all at the same time. Sometimes it was like having your head stuck up inside a beehive. At other times, like laying in a cool, deep river near a waterfall. And like sunset or sleeping beside your best girl or eating tapioca pudding. It was always good, and it was always beautiful. You didn't have to be strung out to appreciate the variety of fashions that turned up at the festival. From Indian garb to brief bikinis, from bell-bottoms to micro-minis. It was a real freak-out, a garment maker's fantasy. But then again, there was a lot in its favor. It told you one thing right away. The kids were not regimented by thought or custom or habit. It was individualism at its best. The way you saw it was the way you did it. A few liberated souls took off all their clothes and strutted around for all the world to see. And nobody paid much attention. It was the kind of respect you pay to a person who's free to exercise his own rights, to do his own thing. Freedom, man. That's what it's all about. You've got to groove on freedom, like the good book says. The music fluttered down over the crowd like pieces of the rainbow. People stood around enraptured by the sweet sounds. Everybody felt like they had some private reason to love the world once more. It was like that big psychiatrist in the sky was freeing them from their frustrations, unzipping their minds, letting it all hang out. won't be long. No, it won't be long now. The kids haven't made their power felt yet, but they've got the power, and you'd better believe it. And it's growing, man. It's growing. The spirit of tomorrow is at hand. A better, happier way of life is going to come to all of us. The kids have got the power. Great changes are in the wind. Just listen to the music. You can hear it in the music. Groove to those good vibrations. Youth is on the move. Look, it's in their faces. It's in their style. They've got the power. And thank heaven for that. The music is a form of communication, something short of a miracle that has happened in the 20th century. The new language is understood by youth. They dig it, and most of them are spaced out by what the music says. It heralds a new world beyond the dark horizon, a place where the bugged-out straight world ends, and the out-of-sight, groovy new world begins. New worlds are not born overnight. Change is always slow and painful. Old ideas die hard. People are disturbed by recent actions of our government. They're losing faith in their leaders. Listen to the disillusionment of a 14-year-old junior high school student. If 14-year-olds are thinking and writing like this, then our country is really in serious trouble. Here is what he says in his own words.
The Vietnam War will go down in world history as an immoral and illegal escapade. It is a form of insanity without strategic or economic excuse. The United States have moved more military cargo to Vietnam than we transported to all of Europe during World War II. And at that time, we were supplying 8 times the number of troops fighting in Vietnam. In Europe, we fought a total war against Nazism. It was a time when all of Western civilization was threatened. In Vietnam, we are pitted against a small, weak peasant nation. We are carrying on a war with vague and uncertain motives, with reasons that are cloudy and confused, beyond the scope of honesty. When veteran and survival costs are paid, it will approach $350 billion. That adds up to approximately $12,000 for every man and woman in Vietnam. It is like dedicating a half year of our total production capability to the destruction of a single country. In this case, little Vietnam, the poor, ravaged victim of a senseless war. 1 in every 4,000 Americans have been needlessly sacrificed in Vietnam. 1 out of every 40 Vietnamese have been killed, not counting the civilian casualties. Vietnam has become the showcase of America's moral bankruptcy. It is a financial fiasco as well. Remember, it is your pocketbook Washington is digging into. The Saigon government is composed of traitors and fools who fought with the French against their own people. The corrupt Saigon government does not warrant our support. We ourselves are in the hands of a fanatic, self-seeking military-industrial minority with absolute power over our lives. We have abdicated our rights. We have become a nation ruled by dangerous men, a leadership which does not listen to our youth or understand what they are saying. The draft is their way of silencing opposition. The alternative is imprisonment or loss of citizenship. The prison sentence for those who resist the draft is so excessive that it seems improbable that it could be tolerated in a civilized country. No man should have to justify to anyone, including his government, his reason morally for refusing to take another human being's life. tragedy occurred at Kent State University. 4 young lives were snuffed out protesting the expansion of the war. If the young people of this nation cannot express their opposition to the war without reprisals from the administration by insinuating that they are radicals and bums, then they are going to continue to lose faith in the democratic process. The war in Vietnam began by presidential decision. It can only end by the same presidential decision.
It's a revolution, Mother.
Mother, it's a revolution, Mother. It's a revolution.